listening to Speaking with One Voice with Rodney Payne. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, topics you'd like discussed on the show, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. That's rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. You can also search for us on Acast, Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Just look for Speaking with One Voice. Now, here's your host.
Hello and welcome to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. I am so excited to be back with you here again this week on Speaking with One Voice. As always, I have to take a moment just to say thank you for listening to our podcast. Thank you for liking and subscribing and rating our podcast. We really appreciate it as you help us continue to grow our digital footprint in this space. Also, we thank you for following us on all of our social media platforms at Rodney R. Payne, where you can get the latest information. I want you to make sure you click that notifications button and also make sure that you are liking our post and commenting and giving us feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Also, I'd like for you to take time to subscribe wherever you're consuming this content. Make sure you're subscribed so that you know and you're notified when we have a new piece of content. Our goal is to add value to you each and every week. And finally, we are now in video as well. And so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Rodney R. Payne, our YouTube channel at Rodney R. Payne. So thank you for continuing to help us, give us the opportunity to add value to you and your leadership team on Speaking with One Voice, your leadership podcast. Listen, I want to talk to you today about one of the most important topics that we have. It seems like the market may be oversaturated with this topic a bit, but no matter how much we talk about it, no matter how much we articulate the importance of this particular skill set, there's always more to learn about it, and it seems to be a void there, and we're always lacking there. So today I want to talk to you about communication, the heartbeat of effective leadership. Communication, the heartbeat of effective leadership. Now, when we talk about communication, it's not so much an exchange of information, but rather an interchange of information. So when we look at this, I want to not look at it as me giving you information and you giving me information back. That's because that's one-sided. I'm communicating from where I'm sitting and you're communicating from where you're sitting. But an interchange of information is going to be one where we have information that's shared, received, and then shared back so that everyone's on the same page. One of the most effective exercises that I've ever learned in communication is one that's called the drive-through method. I'm not sure who to give credit to, but the drive-through method is simply much like you do when you pull up to a restaurant, a quick service restaurant, and you're in the drive-through and you make your order. When there's effective communication, you're going to give your order. The one receiving your order is going to repeat your order back to you to make sure they understand and they have the exact right order. And that's how we have a successful transaction. Well, communication is about the same. We have to have an interchange of information that helps us not just to communicate our point, but that we understand it's been received and we can both move forward based on what we have communicated. So when we talk about communication, the heartbeat of effective leadership, I want to tell you a few things that will help you to grow as a communicator. Because what I know is all effective leaders are effective communicators. It doesn't matter your personality style or your methods or how you go about it. What I know is that if you're going to be an effective leader, you're going to learn how to communicate effectively. So one method that we can do here is that good communicators are usually pretty good storytellers. So if you want to be a good communicator, learn how to use storytelling as a tool. And so when we talk about storytelling, what we're talking about is that you can literally inspire and unify your team while making your vision more relatable. So when we use effective storytelling, it does a few things for us on our leadership journey that helps us with our team. First, if you're going to be a good storyteller in leadership, you must make sure that your storytelling is personal. That's right, personal. You want to tell stories that are actually stories that are personal for you from a personal experience or something you've encountered along your journey. When you tell personal stories, what it does is it gives you credibility. It gives you credibility. So if I know you have been on the journey that I'm on, and through the growth of our company or through your personal leadership journey, we've utilized these particular and specific instances that we've been through, it's going to help us to become uh, more real to our team members. So when you think about it, you want to tell personal stories. I know that if you're not careful, you can get redundant because you utilize the same personal stories. So I want you to dig into your repertoire a little bit, go back into your history, and look at some stories. And not every story is told the same. Some are going to be funny, some are going to be inspirational, some are going to be how do you overcome challenges, but the goal is you want to make your storytelling personal. Now, you want to avoid the essence of storytelling. If you're not careful, storytelling can become stories that are inaccurate. We don't want to ruin our credibility. So we want to tell stories that are accurate, that our team members can again identify with because we've actually been through these things. I can tell you stories as a young leader, as a growing leader. I was so enthusiastic about leadership. It I really couldn't comprehend how others were not as passionate as I was. So I'm telling you a story about a young leader, and the young leader is me, and I'm super excited and I'm super passionate. And I'm so passionate that my story, in the way my journey was going, everything I was doing, I was so passionate about it. My passion became criticism of others. That was an unintended consequence on my journey. So I can tell this story of how my passion was so passionate that it became criticism. I have to be very careful of how it became critical of others, because what I meant to be passion, what I meant to be inspirational, what I meant to be, yes, we can do this, it became almost like I thought I was better than others, or it came off as arrogance. It came off in the wrong kind of way. And this is a real story that I'm telling you. The goal is to help you to personalize your passion and make sure you remain considerate of others and that you tell the accurate story. I could tell that story differently and make it sound like everyone loved me, but they didn't love me because of that. There were many who were not inspired by that. They were actually turned off by that. So as a leader, I had to grow. And so the other thing is, so your storytelling, it has to be personal, it has to be accurate, and thirdly, what your storytelling does when you tell personal and accurate stories, what it does for your leadership and your communication is it makes you relatable. When you tell stories of failure, when you tell stories of success, when you tell stories that are challenging, when you tell stories that are motivating, it makes you relatable to those you are leading, which is the ultimate goal. We want to make sure that we are inspiring others and using authenticity and telling genuine stories. But the whole goal is that we want to break down the barriers of communication. A leader who is not relatable is a leader who is not approachable. A leader who is not approachable will never get the best out of their team members. So you want to make sure that you are a relatable leader telling accurate stories from a personal perspective to improve someone's journey. Listen, the heartbeat of effective leadership is communication. Not only do we have to look at being or using storytelling as a tool, we must also learn the art of nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is usually very unintentional. It's simply a byproduct of how we carry ourselves. And I'm going to tell you, a leader who masters this will change everything. If you master your nonverbal communication, you've seen it a million times, but I want to let you know that nonverbal communication, or what we also call body language speaks volumes. If you're able to look at this or to see me, you can see me, and I can that deep sigh. Just picture me shoulders shrugging, a big exhale, what it speaks disappointment, whether I've said a word or not. I have communicated in a nonverbal way, but it spoke loudly and it was very clear. We must be careful as leaders to direct our body language and not let it just happen. Our faces are a telltale sign. One of the things that happens in my communication is when I get stressed, you can see my eyes squint, my forehead condenses. I begin to rub on oh goodness, and you can see the body language. It's saying I'm frustrated without saying I'm frustrated. So it doesn't matter what I speak. If my face is distorted, if my hand is on my head, if I'm sighing, if I look exasperated, no matter what the words are, my body language speaks more loudly than my words. So I got to be real careful here in this body language. A leader who masters body language becomes an effective communicator, and an effective communicator becomes an effective leader. See what body language can do is body language when it's wrong, improper, it can derail effective communication. You can have the exact right messaging. The components of your message are clear, but in your body language, you can throw the whole thing off the tracks. It doesn't matter what you say. I just think about this. And for those of you who are married, and let me speak to the husbands for a moment, and you help me as a husband. Your wife comes in and she's beautiful to you. She has an outfit, however, that is not the most um, best for that situation. It doesn't really accentuate her positive characteristics, but she loves it, and she asks you in a moment, "Honey, how do I look?" You can say, "You look great. I love you. You're awesome. You're beautiful," with your mouth. You can speak that. But if you have a pause or a brief look, or you take a moment, a reflective position, you can derail your effective communication simply based on your response in your body language. I've got to get this to us because you can tell when someone is disappointed with you. You can tell when someone is not pleased with you. You can tell when someone doesn't really like something, oftentimes simply by what you see, not by what they say. And the thing is that we have to have agreement between our body language and our communication. So if we're going to have this effective leadership that's fueled by effective communication, we've got to make sure that we're intentional in getting agreement with what we say and what they see. It has to match. And so that means I have to be authentic. That means I have to tell the truth. I have to be willing to communicate. These things make a difference. But body language, if you're not careful, it can misrepresent reality. You could have another thought. You could not be giving your full attention to a situation that causes your body language to speak. But remember, your body language speaks more loudly sometimes than your spoken communication. So you could, because you're not focused, because you're not giving your full attention to a situation, someone can be reading body language that literally goes with a different situation, but they're accepting it as if you're giving it to them right now. And so now your body language misrepresents your reality. Have you been in that situation where, like, no, I was thinking about something else, my mind was somewhere else? Well, now you're putting into play that you were not giving the full attention, that you were not being a compassionate leader, you were not being sensitive. And so you want to make sure that you clear your plate and cleanse your palate, so to speak, before you have meetings and encounters. Because if you have a residual or a layover body language that came from your previous situation or from a thought or a distraction, you know, many of us are multitasking. We're looking at smart devices and smart watches, and we're allowing other messages to infiltrate conversations so people can see your body language. In this day of virtual communication, you can be on a virtual meeting and you can look like you're in the room, but you're reading an email or a text or a communication, and your facial expression shows up on the virtual meeting, and people think that you're disengaged or that you're disenfranchised. They don't know what's going on. So we got to be careful to make sure that we don't allow our body language to misrepresent our reality. Listen, you are listening to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, Coach Rodney Payne. This leadership podcast is designed for you and your team to grow as leaders. Today's topic, we're talking about communication, the heartbeat of effective leadership. So, we talked about using storytelling as a tool. Your storytelling has to be personal, it has to be accurate, and that's what will make you relatable as a leader. Secondly, we talked about nonverbal communication or body language. We have to remember that body language speaks. Body language can derail effective communication. And finally, body language can misrepresent your reality. Finally, I just want to talk about uh, the feedback loops. When we talk about communication, I want to talk about feedback here because this is very important. To really get to have to be an effective communicator, we must learn how to give feedback. And remember, the heartbeat of effective leadership is going to be effective communication. So when we look at this, you have to be able to give feedback and listen to me, leader. You have to be able to receive feedback. See, there's going to be a challenge here because feedback. Remember, I told you communication is not the exchange of information. It's not trying to pull you to my side or move to your side, but rather the interchange of information. So when we talk about feedback, the value of feedback, feedback is so important in an organization. It's so important for communication. Why? Because feedback is what really facilitates good communication. What is feedback? Feedback is someone else's perspective on something that you have communicated. That's a simple way to say it. So when I give you feedback, it's based on something you've said or done within the organization, and my feedback tells you how that impacted or how that was received by others. And so feedback can be positive or it can be negative. Either way, feedback is necessary. And I believe that even feedback that's less than flattering will help you on your leadership journey. So you can never undervalue feedback. In a room where no one gives feedback to the leader, that means the leader is not effectively communicating. What that means is that people don't feel like they have the space to actually communicate with you unless they agree with you. If the only feedback you receive is agreement, then you have to empower your team to be able to give you feedback without fear of repercussion. So feedback is so valuable. If you want to grow, you have got to be willing to get feedback. One of the things that I utilize to help me is I utilize Maxwell Leadership's DISC assessments. I can help you with one of those if you'd like, but I use that because it's unbiased feedback. What it does is it talks about your behavioral style and how you communicate based on questions you've answered. So it's not my opinion or what I see, but based on a series of questions. And this has been around since the early 1900s. It's going to tell you about your communication, and you need to learn that about yourself. And so sometimes feedback can be difficult to receive. So go get you an external assessment. And again, we use Maxwell Leadership DISC, method of DISC here. And it's really a wonderful tool. If you're interested in one, inbox me, message me. I'll be happy to help you there. But what that does is it gives you an opportunity to get the hard steps out of the way without anyone being in your face, because sometimes people can tell you the truth, but you just don't want to hear it. So as we consider the value of feedback, I really want to transition to the perspectives of feedback. When you look at the perspectives of feedback, really the goal of feedback is growth. The number one goal of feedback is for you to grow as a leader, for us to grow as a team. We want to be better, and that requires feedback. Even when we get feedback through surveys from our customers, from our clients, from our audience, the goal is growth. We want to be able to serve you better and to be more effective in our communication. See, failure to give feedback, failure to receive feedback sets us up for failure. I'm going to say that again. Failure to give feedback or failure to receive feedback sets us up for failure. A leader who will not receive feedback will soon fail, as a leader. A leader who is unwilling to give feedback will fail. Many times we don't like confrontation, so we have a situation where we need to give feedback, but we can't give it in the right way, so we're afraid to give it, so we just let things slide. When you let things slide without feedback, what you do is you hinder, you damage the culture of your organization. So you want to know the goal is growth, but it's necessary, and you have to give feedback. So that brings me to my final thought here. If you're going to give feedback and it's necessary, and we know that for communication is the heartbeat of effective leadership, we're going to have to give feedback. How do we present it? There are two ways. And I want you to capture these two ways. One is right and one is wrong. One is produces fruit and desired outcomes, and one is damaging and difficult to overcome, and it may kill your organization. The first method is going to be constructive. When you give constructive feedback, although it may feel negative, it's going to build up your team member. It's going to help them to overcome blind spots, weaknesses, poor tendencies that they can improve upon and be more effective. The other is deconstructive, where whatever you say tears someone down, which what that does, that lowers the culture, it lowers self-esteem, it lowers self-confidence, and it can be the reason a leader with great potential dies on the vine because of poor leadership. So I want you to make sure that you are constructive in what you're, tell the truth, but be constructive. Offer solutions, not just condemnations. Let's make sure that we are building our team up, not tearing our team down. Listen, I am so glad you joined us today, and I hope that you have grown today by understanding communication, the heartbeat of effective leadership. We've talked about it, and you have to get these feedback loops together. Make sure that you understand the value, and the goal is growth, and ultimately you can be either constructive or deconstructive. Make sure that you understand and possess and own your nonverbals. I'm looking to give you excitement now. Let's go. Make sure that your nonverbals don't outspeak your spoken words. And then finally, be sure to use authentic, accurate, personal stories that are that will tell the truth and make you relatable to those you lead. Listen, you have been listening to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. As always, please follow us on social media at Rodney R. Payne. Please subscribe, turn your notifications on so that you know when our next content is available. And don't forget, I really want you to do me a favor. What do I want? I want you to sign up for our YouTube channel. That's right. Go subscribe to our channel, and let's make sure that we are looking at the video and that we're sharing it and staying within the community. Listen, it's been my pleasure as always to add value to you and your team. You have been listening to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Until next time, let's keep growing together.
You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice. Please remember to follow Rodney Payne on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Rodney R. Payne. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback, so please feel free to leave us comments. And if you would, rate and subscribe to the podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. Don't forget to set up for notifications so you can get the latest updates and social media posts and get new podcasts when they're released. As always, use the hashtag Speaking with One Voice or simply SWOV on any of your social media posts. On behalf of Rodney Payne, thanks again for listening to Speaking with